Right, welcome everyone. Not sure if I can see 9 participants. If we should wait a little bit. Do you want me to start, Justine, or?
Maybe we'll wait 1 minute. Thanks, Orion.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I think we know everyone too. Gopal, Payun, Tatiana, welcome.
Hi, Justine.
Hey.
Hi, Orion. Hi, Justine.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think.
Go ahead.
Do you know roughly how many were in the meeting, Justine?
Some are arriving, but they'll arrive, and that's fine. This is meant to be a more smaller group anyway, to ask more interaction, right? So it's good. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. And so today we're officially launching the Journal of Snow Leopard Network, Snow Leopard News, and I will hand over to the chair of the steering committee for Snow Leopard Network, Professor Sandro Lovari.
Hello everybody, thank you Orion, and thanks to all the people who are connected. The main topic we are going to talk out today is the launch of our newsletter, which will be an annual one for the time being, which we have named as Snow Leopard News. Different titles were evaluated and eventually we selected this, how should I say, relatively normal one, but I mean, not so fancy, but it conveys the meaning of the contents of this newsletter. So I have been asked to introduce it briefly, but then I let other people from the editorial committee, and especially Orion Johansson, who is the editor-in-chief, to take the floor and explain further, as well as answer questions which hopefully will be asked by the participants in this meeting. I'm going to take the long road, so to speak, and speaking of a newsletter, I'll start from information theory. Information theory, you may know, is the mathematical treatment of the concepts, parameters, and rules which govern the transmission of messages through communication systems, newsletters included. It was founded by someone called Claude Shannon towards the middle of the last century. And he was an American mathematician, engineer, and also cryptographer, known as the father of information theory. He suggested that the code word should determine the event unambiguously, isolating it from all others. That is, it should have minimal length, kind of short note, short report. That is, it should consist of a minimal number of symbols, but what we mean by symbols in this special case is words. So come to the point quickly, exactly as I'm not doing now. But, so information theory provides methods to separate real information from noise, and we'll be using referees to this purpose. We have already secured the big snow leopard names and the prominent researchers. and to determine the channel capacity for optimal transmission of information, will be publishing manuscripts as field notes, short notes, or notes from the conservation front lines, depending on the number of words and contents. So all these features are short notes in practice, more or less short, but still notes. And from now on, let's forget about information theory and let's speak about the purpose of our newsletter, which is to put together and make available the latest information on the biology and conservation of, not surprisingly, the snow leopard. Through these short reports, dealing with the changing status of this species and its habitat at large. In fact, the survival and the status of any species is also a function of potentially competing other species, and in the case of a carnivore, also of its prey, especially in a time like this one, that is during climatic changes, when the composition of the animal communities may be upset, actually will be upset by the environmental changes. And we can already see these signs right now. And if you project the present changes into the next 50, 100 years, then you can expect very great changes. And of course, together with new species colonizing terrains, the local species will have to decide whether they want to emigrate elsewhere or they want to deal with them. But they did not evolve in recent times with these new species, the species invading, colonizing their former territory. And then there might, should I say, some difficult situations may develop. What is the mission of our newsletter? Well, that's simple: to share the latest information on snow leopard ecology and conservation. And this will include the snow leopard, its prey, and carnivores, as I have already mentioned. We also would like to feature innovations in conservation practice and policies which address threats that impact on snow leopard habitats. A supplementary focus is showing the work of snow leopard range countries, scientists from snow leopard range countries, and conservationists, and helping them in the process of sharing their research findings and work. You may ask, what's the emblem of our newsletter? And the answer is, I can't tell you at the moment, because it has not been finalized yet. It is being done, hopefully, but there have been slowdowns. But the idea we had should be a rather nice one. I don't want to anticipate it. Let's now move on and talk about how manuscripts should be prepared. In 1963, the Nobel Prize ethologist Nicola Steenbergen wrote a book where he suggested that all research issues relevant to behavior, because he was an ethologist, so he was talking about behavior, but this concept can be expanded to many other fields of biology. Well, he suggested that all issues relevant to behavior should be related to what was later called Tinbergen's 4 questions. And I will use these questions in a figurative sense as a sort of guideline for potential contributors to prepare a successful manuscript. So Tinbergen's 4 questions were relevant to causation, that is, in our case, why should this manuscript be published? You have to write a stimulating introduction. You have to prepare the reader to understand why you took the time and the effort to write that manuscript. Ontogeny, that's the second question. How has this manuscript developed? Then you have to clarify that you used reliable and appropriate methods, because if you use a shallow approach, shallow methods, or inappropriate methods, then the data you have collected are no data, are just noise, as Claude Shannon would have called them. And then the third question is about evolution. How does this manuscript relate to others published on the same topic or closely related ones? Then you have to write a convincing discussion. You have to discuss your data, your information, and insert your conclusions within a more general framework. The fourth question of Tinbergen dealt with survival value of behavior. And in this case, I think the survival value is relevant to the author's future career. If you write, should I say, shallow papers, then don't expect to make a bright career. So you had better think before publishing. Of course, a newsletter is not expected to attract major manuscripts, which may be submitted to already well-established journals. But there is a wealth of rare observations, data not extensive enough to warrant publication, and conservation-oriented small reports, which would go lost if not published in a newsletter, and instead can be lodged in a small journal like that, which besides has the ambition to develop further and hopefully to become a fully fledged journal in a not too far future. Of course, in the newsletter, you will find also, and please pass this information on to the appropriate people, information on relevant congresses and other meetings. For example, I'll be sending soon such an information about the 9th Congress on Mountain Ungulates, International Congress on Mountain Ungulates, which will be held in Italy next year, in September next year. And I'm now waiting for some information before sending it off. Mountain ungulates are important to snow leopards. So I think that this Congress may stimulate interest in some of you, or maybe in all of you. I think I've talked probably too much so far, and I think I will leave it at that and let Justin or Orion and the other people involved in the editorial committee to take the floor. Thank you for listening to me till now.
Thank you, Sandro. Very nice introduction and explanation of our newsletter. Thank you. So, yes, I think as Sandro said, we're not. The aim is not that we will publish these full-fledged articles, but rather shorter notes. And as we all know, there is so much information that is still not available about snow leopards, both their ecology and their habitat. And so when we go out and do our studies, the main results will probably be too big for for this newsletter, but we always find these extra information that is perhaps where sample sizes may be too low to write a paper or so, but it's still of great importance or value for scientists and the conservation community. And then we have a forum here for it. So I'm sure that the notes will be very, very valuable. And just as an example, we're doing in our study in Mongolia, we've been doing predation studies for 11 years, I think it is now. And we found one of our females killed 2 black-tailed gazelles, and they're not considered to be a prey species of snow leopards. And that could be a nice note, just sharing information that's actually very important. So with that, I think that I will ask Madhu from the steering committee if you have anything you'd like to add about the newsletter.
Thank you so much, Aryan. Yeah, I think this is a good, very exciting initiative that SLN has initiated. So as Sandro said and you mentioned, so there is not so much to mention here, but I think this is a very good forum to include lots of observation, since we are based in the field and we usually have encounters while going in the field. Also, we used to encounter snow leopard. Particularly when I was doing my field as a PhD field work, I was struck by one of the snow leopard. So I tried to publish that in the blog, in Panthera blog, but it was still pending. So there are so many such types of information are there in the field that our rangers and the researchers used to encounter. And I think this is a very nice forum to include all those interesting stories. Also, it also helps with give some ecological knowledge about snow leopards and other sympatric carnivores who are associated in the snow leopard habitat. So I think this is a nice start, and this will also give opportunity to include other associated sympatric carnivores and prey species to include in the futures. So I really look forward to grow this into a journal and very soon in a few years, and let's hope we'll succeed in doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, Madhu. We also have both Kostub and Ranjini, who is on our editorial board for the newsletter. I don't know if you would like to say something.
Hey, Urian, thank you. No, wonderful introduction. And I just wanted to make one quick point. There was this conversation going on that, if you can't get it published in X or Y place, here is where you can publish. It actually takes me back to one journal which is very dear to me, which is the Journal of Bombay Natural History Society. Started in 1880s and started with publishing short notes and anecdotal observations. But any researcher in India who's trying to start any work, in fact, not just India, but the entire Indian subcontinent, who's planning to start any work on a species, has to almost mandatorily go through the entire 100 years of JBNHS volumes to find some of these anecdotes which come together and provide wonderful information about a species. I remember doing that for the four-horned antelope 15 years ago. And I think the snow leopard news is second to none. it will be second to none with all the editors and the peer review that is the stringent peer review it's going to get through. I think it will make its own niche and mark, because I'm sure a lot of us may have or must have gone through one of those desk rejections where they say, great work, but too specific to a species. And that really can be a bit of a challenge, and a lot of work, valuable, high quality work in those perspectives can get published. And yeah, eventually I see Snow Leopard News to become one of those iconic publications which do not restrict researchers and conservationists just because A, they're working on snow leopards, B, they may not have hundreds and thousands or hundreds of thousands of data points, and C, language. I think that's another big challenge a lot of researchers from the region have often faced. And as part of the editorial board and with support of everyone, the steering committee of this Snow Leopard network, I'm sure we will be able to provide that additional support to whoever has some quality work that needs to be published, but is facing a challenge of language or some other, bottlenecks. So yeah, I mean, given those, cheers to the Snow Leopard News.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone who has any questions who would like to say anything from the audience?
There's also Ranjini on the editorial board. Maybe Ranjini, do you have a comment?
Thanks, Justine. I'm really excited to, at this release of Snow Leopard News, like Kaustubh and everyone before was saying, it's such a great space to collate information across the range on snow leopards, and it provides a space for a lot of different voices to be heard. And I'm especially excited about the multiple different language contributions. I think that'll be a great step toward hearing voices from different, often they say English is what is the language, or the language barrier prevents, very important research from across languages being heard. So I'm glad that Snow Leopard News provides that platform. So looking forward to contributions from across the range. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I'd really like to congratulate all of you that are working on making this happen, and for all of the reasons that have already been outlined. So many people have got valuable stories, information, research that currently doesn't have a channel to be shared. So congratulations. I think it's a wonderful initiative, and I really wish you well. One other thing I would say is having had a experience in publications over the years, one of the things that I always found very valuable was, especially in starting, to target specific people that you think perhaps have got something to contribute, and to ask them to bring something into the mix early on to get a sense of energy going. But really, congratulations. It's a wonderful idea, and I'm sure it'll be very successful. I wish you all much success in spreading more news, information, research about our beautiful species.
Thank you. Thank you. And yes, it's very good advice to bring in people. I think we're starting, so we will probably learn as we go too. But no, great. Thank you.
And just to comment on Sibylla's point, what's really nice as well, we've seen so far in the submissions, just a little sneak peek, is some of these publications are not just one group. it's groups coming together, putting metadata together. So, you know, the author list is massive, but that's okay, you know, but because it's a nice way for the snow leopard community also to collaborate on a certain topic and share the anecdotes they have, and bring it together for snow leopard news. And it's species specific, as many people said, that is being rejected in many journals, but is really useful for snow leopards. So I hope that snow leopard news can do that as well. People could build groups and coalitions to bring different small bits of information together to create articles.
Yeah, I forgot, but Justine, do you have anything other that you'd like to add?
Maybe, Orion, you can let them know a little bit about the hope for the Royal Society. What?
Library. Yes.
Library.
Yes. We're working on a solution. So it's not finished yet, but I'm quite sure that the newsletter will be hosted on a platform provided by the Swedish Royal Library. So it will be like any scientific journal. Basically, it's the same system. So every note will have a DOI number, and you can access them and search for them as you would in Journal of Animal Ecology or any other journal. And they're providing this for free to us, but it's not set up yet. But we hope that it will be. Then it will also get impact factors and everything else, like any scientific journal. Yeah, if there's any questions from the audience or other comments.
But more than a question, I would like to encourage all of us to contribute to the newsletter, especially initially. Elder scientists may be in a better position than people, newcomers, people who are starting now their career, to sacrifice, so to speak, even major papers to a newsletter. So, I mean, right now I have no material suitable, but I might have in the future. I'm making an effort myself to publish something in that newsletter. But I would encourage everybody to do the same effort. Thank you.
Yeah. So I see you're here, Tatiana. I think did you submit? Was it you who submitted? I think I got an email. Yes.
Yes, I think yes. Hi everyone, and it's a very good thing to discuss this fantastic news. I was trying just to look through the page that you posted with about the newsletter, Snow Leopard News, and we just have really to look through and think about how to make it better. Yesterday, yes, we submitted 3 stories just something to start with. These are the latest news of snow leopard conservation in Russia. WWF Russia at the moment is the organization that actually accumulates all the news, all the information about snow leopard conservation in Russia. Not the Ministry of Natural Resources, unfortunately, but the non-government organization, just like us, WWF, we have all the news. And it's a great idea that you posted here about the field stories, not just the scientific data or some really sometimes quite boring data, all related to science and everything, but the stories, something that have to be understood by people. Recently we discussed with the communication team of WWF Russia how we are going to compete with the other organizations for attention, for people's attention, especially in Russia, when some companies, some business companies, they post their own agenda about how well they conserve the nature, and we cannot compete with the huge industrial gigantic companies, and we are getting lost. And unfortunately, we have to make our language even simpler, even easier. Of course, we would love to take all the wider audience and bring them up to our level, but we cannot compete. We cannot make our language even simpler to understand. So this is what we have to keep in mind, that sometimes our scientific data is absolutely cannot reach the audience because it's too complicated. So we have to use stories, emotions, sometimes even sacrifice our scientific data and add a link. If you're really interested in that, maybe it's how we can fight the language issue. We have a short story in English, and if you really want, you can contact this person in that or this country and find out more. So we have to think about this newsletter to be understandable, because we want to reach the wider public, right? Not just our closed, very fantastic, but very, very closed in community of Snow Leopard experts. So let's start, and we all will contribute to make it the best edition of Snow Leopard News ever. Yes, and thank you for this idea.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah, I think it's of course hard reaching the public too. I don't know if you could, of course, if you write something in Snow Leopard News, you can add, if you then write in Russian or so, you can add a link to the paper there. But yes, I think it will be hard, or maybe I misunderstood. But I guess it will be hard to reach the public with Snow Leopard News.
Well, I just mean if you someone like in countries like Russia, when people do not speak English at all, most of us, and it's very hard to contact this particular person because there are some scientists, you can just add a link to a contact that you can contact that person who speaks English, and he can refer to someone, because we cannot really contact you directly to someone who doesn't speak a language. Well, we'll find out the details later, but just to keep in mind, if we make it short and then you refer to someone who can help you with reaching that particular person who posted the scientific information, that would be great.
Yeah, yes, that's a good idea.
And, I think their Snow Leopard News has the option, I think, and it has been discussed, right, Orion, that some articles would go for peer review, the more scientific, the more ecological ones, but some articles are not necessarily for peer review. It's like you said, more news, more information on what's happening. And we, depending on how it goes, they might have different categories within the journal, right? We have a section that were peer reviewed, it's clearly indicated, and those are more of the bulk of the journal, I'd say. But then there's a section on these kind of news, like you're saying, and we could bring in for the bringing more awareness about certain topics. So that's a really good point to highlight, right, Orion? How to find that balance of the two. But thanks, Tatiana, great idea.
There's a question here in the chat from Flavia, but for people with English barriers, how are they going to be encouraged and helped to be able to write and publish? I don't think, maybe there is no information right now, but I'm thinking if that the editorial board we have at least one volunteer, right, who will help, so that we can actually help, instead of, if you submit to a journal and they don't like the language, they will reject it. But we will actually try to help instead, and provide feedback or maybe even suggestions for how to improve the language. But of course, you'll still have to write the manuscript so that the data and everything is presented there, and then we can help touch it up a little bit.
Yeah, and we have a volunteer who translates from English to Mandarin. So for all Mandarin speakers, Pei-Yun, I think, who's here in the audience, that might be of interest for the Chinese audience that want to submit as well. So we hope to, and we also have a Russian translation, actually, Tatiana, through support with GSLEP. So we have those 2 languages of translation languages available currently. We hope to get more.
Yeah.
I see one person's just joining. Any other questions? I don't know. Gopal, do you have any thoughts or suggestions? I mean, this is also a great chance for us to get your feedback and thoughts. Like, for example, like Tatiana shared some ideas for us to consider.
Yeah, that's also important point, you know. In many places, the language will be barrier. Maybe somebody has someone has very good natural history sort of news or any data or any information, and we should always try to encourage them. And if there is some way we could encourage them and check the language and the writing style, you know, and help them write, and that would be very encouraging, and that would increase the chances of getting more information from him. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. The things, yeah, we need like now like lots of snow leopard researchers know that snow leopard network is going to publish this news, and it's very like we know that, and a lot of people are considering submitting by the deadline, I hope. And I'm also considering submitting some field notes from Dolpa. Yeah.
Nice. Very good. I see Sibyl has commented, another idea for a section could be to introduce with an interview a researcher or conservationist. Yeah, that's a good idea. We could definitely consider that. I also know, I think it was Wildlife Society Bulletin had, I'm not sure if they still do, but there you could provide well, photos of the authors and a brief, well, rather detailed overview of, just introduce yourself. So maybe we could do that too if people would like to offer that.
And I see Alexander just joined. I don't know if he has any questions or thoughts to add. You missed most of it, but.
Hi, Dresden. Hi, everyone. Nothing to it.
Super. So, so we will. When is the first edition coming, Orion?
Yeah, early next year. We don't have a date yet, but early next year. That's what we aim for. So we'll see. It depends a little bit on how it goes with the library, how long it will take. But yeah, we'll get back.
But yeah, I think it's really good to get it official. This registration with an official library and getting it an approved journal will give it a lot of strength to the journal and the newsletter. So thank you for leading that.
Yeah, I agree. It will be great. Here's a question. How broad are the topics going to be to make sure enough people have something to publish? Yeah, basically anything that considers the snow leopard landscape, I guess, or within biology or conservation. So we accept. I don't think we're very limited there. So as long as it somehow relates to snow leopard landscapes, we will consider it at least.
Super. So I think also Kustub is here. Maybe he can tell us a little bit about the steering committee meeting, Kustub, that's coming in the next few days. I don't know if you have an announcement for everyone. If he's there. I know he's running around.
Yes, I'm very much here. Sorry. And thanks for, as always, putting me on the spot just last. But yes, so for all of you, oops, can you guys still hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can.
Sorry. Yeah. Just a second, please. Yes. Yeah, so the steering committee meeting of the Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Bishkek time. If any of you is interested, you should feel free to join it either as an audience, or you can just watch it from within the Attendify platform. So if you look at the schedule on the left-hand side, you'll see it as a meeting which is automatically adjusted to your local time zone on the Attendify platform. So please do join in. The meeting will be chaired by the Honorable Minister of Environment and Forest from Nepal and co-chaired and hosted by the Minister of Natural Resources and Environment in the Kyrgyz Republic. If you have any questions, please do let us know.
Oren, do you want to close this off, maybe?
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for participating. I saw there was a comment here. I can just read that before it disappears. But so from Flavia, it would be helpful to publish on other regional cat or predatory species to also allow these co-occurring species to get info out. Yeah, that may not be clear from the scope. I think, yeah, we can revisit and check, but yeah, it doesn't have to be. So any cats or ungulates or I suppose plants, it doesn't have to be carnivores, but anything that affects conservation or biology within the snow leopard landscapes. So it is broad, but we can check the scope to make sure that it's clear. So yes, thank you for participating and for your interest in snow leopard news. We look forward to all your contributions, and I think it'll be great. And in a few months, you'll have the first issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sandro, for the intro.
Thank you, Sandro.